Hello and welcome. Thank you for those of you here live. So thank you, Karen, Ginger, Ali, and anybody else who will come in as we're getting going. First event of the Kindness in Business Challenge, and it's I can't actually believe that I'm doing it now. I've been thinking about doing this. It's been part of the vision for Big Soul Network from the very start. And it's only taken me, 6 months to actually get around to getting one done. So, but hey ho, here we are. So tonight, what I wanted to do was talk to you about why kindness is really important to me. So I'm going to just share a little bit of the kind of stories that have led me to the point where I'm just now around kindness. And then we'll open up and have a bit of a chat about, what that impact is and how we can use some things for ourselves and share whatever else comes up. If you've got any questions as I'm chatting, just you can put them in the chat thread and I'll come round and answer them once we kind of get a wee bit further on. So if that's okay, I'll just kind of start and share a little bit of my story. Um, some of you may have seen I just recorded a video just to kind of promote the what we were doing in the kindness challenge, and I shared the what was written in David Hamilton's book, which is my story is in this one, Why Kindness is Good for You. And also it was then rewritten and it's in the five side effects of kindness, I think, as well. So what what I wanted to do is just not read from the book here again, but just explain a little bit about what what happened, I suppose, to us after Callum died. Because the the impact of that was huge. And as me, if those of you who've lost people close to you, death is, and particularly when it happens suddenly and the trauma of stuff, it really does knock the feet from you. I mean, it's something that's a really kind of difficult, challenging time. And people just rallied round. Folk, I think, of naturally want to help. People are looking at how they can reach out and make a difference when something really difficult has happened. And we had lots of family and friends just descend upon us, thankfully, to come and look after us, just do the day-to-day things that we just you didn't really know how to do. I mean, I couldn't figure out how to go to the shop and get food, or people turned up with things just to and made meals. And that in those early days, it's those things that actually just help sustain you, because just being able to eat and cook was way beyond my capacity even at that time. Um, then, and I spoke in the video the other day about, we had people who left cakes on the doorstep, and without even a note or anything, just, I would open the door and there'd be a box with some, I mean, homemade cake or something, or a bag with some shopping in it. And I think that was where people maybe found it too difficult to come and actually tap the door because they didn't know how I would be or how I would react. So leaving something there was a way just to be kind. And it was really appreciated. The people, the acts of the people though who really stood by me in particular, um, that that's something that stays really, here, because it's to stand beside somebody who's really going through grief and really struggling. It's not an easy journey when somebody is really low. And people, might ask how you are, but they move quickly on it because they don't really want you to tell them how you are. If you're really struggling, it's just like, how are you is almost just the thing that we're kind of trained to say, but we don't really want to hear the answers. And the people who did, the people who genuinely stopped me to ask me how I was, and sometimes in the street, I had also had people who crossed the road so they didn't have to speak to me. Um, and that, and I mean, I wouldn't. hold that against people because they just didn't know how to handle the potential emotional stuff that they thought that was going to come up. So that was them kind of just going, I can't deal with it, so go. But actually, when people were kind of really kind and stopped, I mean, some friends who were driving stopped their car, saw me walking with the dog or something, stopped the car, get out and come and gave me a hug. You know, how are you today? What's happening? Can we do something? Um, that was really so heartfelt because that was more than just the kind of like the kindness that you can do and disappear from. That also took courage, I think, to kind of to step in and do that with someone. So that's at a real, you know, deep a deep level. I also had friends who never gave up, and in particular, a friend that I used to work with kept sending me stuff through the post because I hadn't, you know, I had left my job, you know, what, 10 months before Calum died. So I wasn't in contact with this person day to day as I might have been, you know, beforehand. But she kept sending me, she would send me a card. She sent me things to help Kirsten. And she just, you know, just every now and again, there would be something, you know, every few weeks, there would be something just arrive in the post, some little thing, a book. And again, that was really a really kind thing that she did because it was just that here you are, I'm still in touch, I've not given up. But even if you don't feel like coming out and coming, you know, she would always ask if you want to come for a coffee, but you didn't know how you were going to feel. So trying to organise something early days in particular was difficult. So those are the things that people did that were connected to us already. I think what took the level of kindness that we received up a notch was when we started to kind of focus our efforts on doing some fundraising. And this was early on. I mean, the big thing for us was, I mean, Callum died in October. So, I mean, we're almost at the anniversary of his death. It was the 12th of October that he died. His 13th birthday was on the 8th of December. And that became a focus for us, thinking that we need to do something for his birthday. We need to do something for his 13th birthday. So the idea of bringing his friends together, and Callum was very much the social child. You know, he was the one who had um, all the kids in the house. You know, my usual thing was shouting upstairs, who was here, how many were staying for dinner. You know, and you would just have a troop of them up and down. You know, um, so there was a constant hub of activity, if you like, our house was, um, and his friends were all really struggling because they had suddenly lost. Callum was very much the linchpin in the groups who came together because of him. So there was lots of people who knew each other, but he, you know, and I think of it so much like he obviously was so much like me. He was a connector. He brought people together, and they were all struggling. So we thought, right, get all the kids to the house, you know, like bring them all in and let's see what ideas they've got. What are we going to do? We're going to have a party for him for his 13th birthday. What are we going to do? And they came in and suddenly had all these like, you know, amazing, crazy ideas about, right, we're doing fundraising, we're going to have a huge event, we're going to have it in the school. What if we could get, right, okay, we need to get in touch with all these people that meant something to Callum. So they started with lists of the people that he loved. I mean, he was a huge music fan. The Fratellis, Biffy Clyro, were two of his like main groups at that time. He'd started to play the guitar, and he was learning Chelsea Dagger on his guitar. That was the so that was one of the big things. So they were desperate. We need to get to Fratellis. We need to get to Biffy Clyro. He loved Ready Steady Cook, which was a program that was on TV, and he absolutely loved it. Used to watch it coming home from school. And Gino Da Campo, the chef, was his absolute favourite. So any time that he was on, he was just like, oh, he's just brilliant. I just love him. I love him. So he was top of the list. Um, as was, oh God, I can't remember her name now. You will know her. Very famous, voluptuous chef. that does stuff, and her name will come back to me. She was another one. And we thought possibly for other reasons. I think he was starting to grow up a little bit. Why he was attracted to her. But yeah, there was lots. So there was groups of people, and then lots of other things that the boys and girls that were his friends were saying. Right, we need to do this. We need to do this. So for this was probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks after he died. So we're talking then, the beginning of Nigella, absolutely Nigella Lawson. Thanks, Karen. Yes. Um, so it was. They were then on a mission. It was like, right, we're going to, get in touch with all these people and see if they'll donate stuff, and we'll do a raffle, we'll do an auction. We're going to have all of these things. We're going to do PlayStation games. We're going to have stuff. I mean, honestly, the list just grew and grew and grew. But what happened really with this was that they all came together. It was a healing process for them because suddenly they had something to do. The school were absolutely amazing because, again, the teachers were, they were lost. I mean, the head teacher at Bishop Briggs Academy at the time, Gordon Molesdale, he was just, he was in bits, and he was like, right, okay, we're just doing this in the school. We'll just have a huge big event. We'll have a big event. We'll do everything. The catering department, I don't know what they're called now. The folk who teach the cooking and stuff in there. They were saying, right, we'll make cakes and we'll do stuff. What was it he loved? They were like trying to do all. They were making cakes. We had rooms set up. Folk actually brought in PlayStation stuff so that they could have a gaming room. But all through this, there was, all the kids had set off to go and say, we can get in touch with, who can we get in touch with? And they were sending messages to all these people through their social media, lots of things to try and get in touch. And every week, the list was getting longer and longer for what we're doing. People just donated so much. I mean, it was just incredible the things that we had. The week just about the week before his birthday, suddenly I get a phone call then from my friends because for all the things and all the messages that were going out, we just weren't getting anywhere with to reach the Fratellis, and they were kind of number one on the list. And then suddenly I got a phone call from a friend who said, "Kim, you're never going to believe this. I was out for dinner last night with my friends. It was a work thing for Christmas. I've just realised that I actually work beside Baz, who's the bass player in the Fratellis, his sister. Didn't know that's what she was. Told her what was happening. Told her you've been trying to. She said to me, she actually phoned her brother there and then and told him the story. They want to meet you tomorrow. Can you go and meet them? And I was like, it was like, oh my goodness, what? So here I am on the Friday, then before the event was happening on the Saturday, which was Calum's birthday. On the Friday, they asked me to come to their studios, which are in Glasgow. I drive over, park over just outside the studios, go in, and the three of them are there. So Mince, Baz, and John are all there. And the first thing they said to me, we are so sorry. We are so sorry. We know that you've been trying to get in touch with us. Because then when they heard, they went and looked, and there was obviously tons of messages for all these kids and on every platform. And they said, we're really sorry. We've been busy. We've just been about to record a new album, and it was like, it's okay, it's fine. But what was the first thing was they said, they sat me down with the three of them, and they said they were all in the room together and said, tell us about Callum. And that was the first thing because it was like, we want to know about him. And I shared that he loved music, he loved them, and that had been the inspiration to learn the guitar, and playing Chelsea Dagger on his guitar was his thing. He was actually buried in his Fratelli's t-shirt. um, and they were really emotional themselves about it, and they were lovely, and they said, right, we've got some things we want to give you for this for your event tomorrow to take to, because they knew we were doing the kind of raffle and auction thing at the school. And John handed me the his Fender Telecaster guitar, which if you actually look on the video for Chelsea Dagger that's written on, that was what he gave me. Baz gave me the original artwork that was done for that they had, so it was the actual painting that was from there. He came through and gave me the painting, and Mince gave me a drum skin for the Fratellis, and they signed everything. And I've actually, I could show you a little picture of this is the stuff that we had. This is it in my book. This is it. Here we are. These things then were given, and here they are as we actually went to meet them later on with something like myself and Kirsten. Um, I then am absolutely blown away. I'm thinking, my goodness, all this is incredible. And I'm sort of saying, thank you. I really need to go. Sinclair didn't come because actually he's waiting at home because the guys from Biffy Clyro had been in touch and they were delivering stuff to the house. I mean, there were so many people were delivering. I mean, the house was just like an Aladdin's cave. So he had stayed there. Um, and I said, right, I need to go because I'm going to pick my mum up now for the bus station. I get out and my car's not there. Right? My car's disappeared. And I had held it together until that point, and then it's just, I mean, I just dissolved into tears. And I'm looking, thinking, you know, that way your mind's just gone because I'm like, where there's the car? And they're like, come on back in. So they brought me back into the house, having carried all this stuff out to go at the car, brought me back into the studio. John's sitting with me, sobbing my heart out on his shoulder. Mince is making tea, and Baz is on the phone, trying to figure out where do we find where our car is. Because all he kept saying to me was there was no broken glass, so it's not been stolen. They find out that it's been taken to the pound because I'd actually parked kind of partly on a double yellow line and partly on a bus stop, you know. So, oops. So they found out that it was actually away to the pound. They organised their chauffeur that they had to come and collect me and go and so that I could go and get my mum, take everything. And they're saying to me, look, just keep him for the weekend if you need him. You know, it's like, we'll just give you his number, just get him to whatever he needs to do. They had instructed him when they took me to go and get the car that he had a card to go and pay for the £160 fine or whatever it was for me to get my car back. I mean, it was just, I was completely overwhelmed, right? And you might have thought that that was, I mean, they'd done this huge, act of kindness. They'd given us all this stuff, but it wasn't, and I think this is the testament to their absolute kindness that they have. I mean, they are incredible people. They're brilliant musicians, but they're incredible people. They stayed in touch with us. They got in touch with me and said, bring his friends down to the studios. So we did, we had that huge event. Actually, when I got back home with all this stuff as well, I thought, I can't actually turn up to the school tomorrow with all this stuff for the Fratellis. I mean, this is worth a lot of money. So we decided actually not, we told people that we had it and we just said, look, we're going to do something else with this because it's bigger than just turning up at the school tomorrow. So do you want to like give us a fiver for a raffle ticket or something for this? So that's a whole other story of what we did with it anyway. But so after the event, I mean, we had over 800 people came to the school. Calum had the biggest 13th birthday party ever. We raised almost £10,000 that day with all the stuff that people did. It was just, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, I think I hugged everybody at least 3 times. I mean, it was just one of those incredible days. It was a hard day, but it was a beautiful celebration of when the community all came together and the impact that we'd had, and the kids were buzzing. It had helped get them through that. The Fratellis did have the kids back. We did take them to go and meet them all in their studio later on. They played music with them. They signed stuff with them. And that day that I was there, and that was the photograph that I showed you when Sinclair and Kirsten came, I looked over and there was a photograph that I'd given them, a Calum, and it was sitting on the window ledge. They had kept it up sitting, and that was, and it was just like, no, that's it. He's part of us. And um, a couple of months later, when they released their second album, which is Here We Stand, they then got in touch with me to tell me they had dedicated it to Calum. So if you actually look at the Fratelli's second album, it is dedicated to him. And they've continued to stay in touch with us and done lots of things. I mean, they're just amazing people. So that was, like somebody that was Callum's idols turned out to be amazing. Gino De Campo actually phoned me. again, having somebody that you didn't know, and we'd been trying to get in touch with him, and he picked up the phone just before we were actually about to do the event, and I answered the phone to him saying, hello, is that Kim? This is Gino De Campo. And I'm like, my goodness. And he just, his thing was, I am so, so sorry to hear what happened to your son. How can I help? What can I do? And he sent us stuff, but he was just such a lovely person. I mean, again, kept in touch with us a couple of times, phoned up to find out how things were going. And it was a few years later on that we actually got to meet him face to face. And that was when Kirsten and I, then got to see him. Um, and say thank you again for him, because taking the time, it's one thing, I think, when you're a celebrity and people know you and they contact you and ask you for things and you can send them stuff. So Nigella Lawson did send us um, a cookery book that she'd signed and sent it, but we didn't have any direct contact with her. But the two that meant the absolute most to Calum actually were the ones who got in touch. So what is this, this connection, that they were obviously really kind people as well. Um, and there was something that really just touched their hearts too. And the impact that that had initially with us was just huge. What happened after that, though, even so, the next year we decided we were going to then use the Fratellis stuff and do a big raffle. We got in touch with the meningitis charity and said, look, do you want to help with this? Because we think this is worth a lot of money, and maybe we can help kind of spread the word. So we got back in touch with the guys and said, for what was Callum's 14th birthday, we were having a music night in the school, and all the kids who were in bands and stuff were all going to play Fratelli's tunes, and we asked them if they could come and play. Unfortunately, they were touring at the time, and so they couldn't, but they did actually record a video for us and sent a video that we played on the night for them to everybody in the school, which was amazing. But because they wanted to share what we were doing, that was when we suddenly had all these other people who were connected through the Fratellis get in touch with us, and they were sending us stuff because they knew we had this main raffle going on where people were buying raffle tickets to win these Fratellis, like unique items. I mean, this was the thing, I mean, the Fender Telecaster guitar and the drum skin and the artwork. But there was people who then went on to competitions to win stuff, sent won things and then sent it back to us. The guy in the States, Rafe, who just contacted us, sent us, I mean, some amazing emails, just reaching out and just really just connecting from his heart. So many of the Fratelli's fans getting in touch and sending us lovely messages, sending us stuff that we could use in the fundraising. And it was this, suddenly we had all of these people who were directing kindness towards us. And I think that's what I shared with David when he was doing the his book, when he was talking about why kindness is good for you, was the impact that it had. Because from one act of kindness in itself is huge. When you've suddenly got all of these people who you do not know getting in touch with you and going out of their way to do things. It wasn't just about them donating money or something. It was just they were literally going out of their way to do things and send us messages and get in touch. And it was amazing the difference it had. Because at that point, life was black, bleak, horrible, and in between the fundraising things, I mean, your emotional state would go from being, okay, it's really, really low, right? I'm going to do this because it gives me a focus, it gives me something to do. And then you would crash afterwards because it was like, oh my goodness, here we go, we're down again. And then you come back through and you lift up a wee bit and then you go down again. Those people who were around, excuse me, those people, whether they were the friends that were connected to us who just kept, who didn't, didn't disappear, the ones these new friends that we made through the Fratellis and all the work that in particular they were doing, it just gave it gave me, I suppose, hope that life could be better. It really gave me a boost of, energy, and I think it is just that heartfelt connection. And I talked a lot early days about the pain that was in my heart because actually, I mean, death and grief is a physical pain. Um, and my belief is that all of these acts of kindness that we've had, and there are, I mean, I could talk for hours about all the others, all of these acts of kindness that we had helped to knit a cover over that hole. That's how powerful I think these, like somebody being really kind to you can actually do. Um, so that's I think that it's that real visceral, if you like, emotional connection that I have to being kind. And it's the thread when we then really started to kind of come back into doing stuff around business. My first thing then, I was running my happiness clubs. My business was called Stress the Positive. I was on this mission to make Scotland happier. And that's where that thread of kindness went first. It was through all of those things. Um, Scotland's Happiness Day, I decided we were going to have this brilliant idea. We're going to issue Smile Awards. We're going to give people Smile Awards. We're recognising the people who do little things for others. The ones who you might work in a shop and they just get that you go in every day and they just have something the way they smile at you and they chat to you and it just lifts you. And I thought, "Do you know what? It'd be great if you would just recognise the small acts of kindness that people do. Not these big things, but people could actually nominate somebody for a Smile Award." So I thought this was a great idea. Got in touch with the local press, which was the sort of Bishop Briggs Herald, and said, "Look, I've got this idea. What do you think?" They loved it, and they said, "Yeah, I'm sure that we could put this through all of the Scottish papers." I was like, right. So, and I'm thinking, right, I've given them the idea. They're going to go, and it's like, okay, so can what can you do to write this up? And can you? And I was like, right, okay, I'll write you a piece. Turned out, we then had to create a website. I was writing articles for them every week. We were designing logos for Smile Awards. I mean, honestly, the thing just grew arms and legs. It was absolutely amazing. So all of the papers, the local press papers that were part of I can't remember which group it is. I mean, they covered virtually the whole of Scotland. We're running this in their paper every week, from August through until November, asking people to nominate folk for Smile Awards. And it was all going to be given out at the Happiness Day in November that we were having. Um, it was just it it was again, it was something that was really tangible for folk. It suddenly became like huge for me to kind of get for us to do, way beyond whatever we anticipated. We designed and got commissioned these lovely little glass, Smile Awards. It's the oh God, Glass Apple Studios is the company, the girl's name that did the stuff. I can't remember her name. She produced these for us, and it was just, we had just an amazing time giving them out. Wonderful celebration of it all. But yeah, it was it almost crippled us, financially, and I mean it was such a big undertaking. So I think in amongst that, what I had to learn, the journey in there was also about being kind to me and being able to ask for help. And because people kept saying to me, "Oh, it's amazing all this stuff that you're doing. How many people are in your team?" Well, actually, there's Sinclair and I are doing all this stuff, and then I roped in some friends to be judges, along the way, so that we could actually make decisions as to who was getting Smile Awards. But yeah, just it was woven through Stress the Positive and the Happiness Day stuff that was there. Fast forward a little bit, where Sinclair's writing these books. We've suddenly helped other people to publish. Sitting there by talking in cafes, first of all, just helping them, what can we do when somebody's saying, can you help me? I don't know how to publish a book. To then us creating training courses, and then suddenly we've got this accidental publishing business. Uh, in there, we knew that it was so important that Calum was still part of indie authors' world. Really, because Sinclair would never have finished writing a book to start with had Calum not died. I mean, here's the irony of it all. The man who'd always written stuff and never finished anything, it took Calum's death to really get him focused on something that he absolutely loved to do. So that was important for us then, that obviously Calum was still going to be at the heart of what we were doing with indie authors. I am delighted that Karen's actually on the call tonight, because Karen was the recipient of the first kind of major competition that we did, again as a fundraiser for what was Callum's 21st birthday. We decided that we would do a competition and invite people to enter the competition and win a publishing prize with us. And Karen's book, 13 Stones, was the winner. Absolutely brilliant book. You need to go and look at it and go and find it and read it. So Karen was awarded the prize at what was Callum's 21st birthday, where we had a ball. Literally, it was the a wonderful life ball was what we called it, and we had lots of things going on. Again, the Fratelli's donated stuff, and we had we had other things that we made money from for the meningitis charity that night as well. And again, you just found that we were able to then take this thread of kindness and weave it through by raising some awareness about what we were doing in our business and helping somebody achieve something that they wanted to do, which was Karen got her book published. Um, we we did a couple of other things in Indie Authors, which was then we had a kindness challenge, and we actually asked people to nominate somebody that they thought deserved to be published, because of just they were a nice person, they were a kind person, and what could we do for that person? And it was Chris Tate. Now Chris is has gone on to produce great things. I've seen her all over there. She's from Shetland. She does poetry. She wrote some really wacky, amazing stories. And we published her first book again as because she was nominated so many times through the kindness challenge, that we got her book published. And the final big thing that we did with indie authors was create Calum's legacy. So I have, and always will, I think, have a real affinity with young people. Teenagers in particular, they get a bad rap from a lot of society, and I have just witnessed how amazing young people are, and sometimes they just need an extra bit of support and encouragement. And we decided that we really wanted to help kids who were maybe interested in writing something and being creative. We wanted to kind of encourage them to actually, follow that passion, write something, and we would help them kind of publish it. So we decided we would launch Calum's Legacy. We opened up places for 12 people, 12 young folk, to come and be part of Calum's Legacy. We started just, in fact, this just before COVID hit. I mean, we started in, I think, September. Sadly, my mum had just died. I mean, we were in the midst of everything. I mean, it was just a bit of chaos. Um, but we got them all together. We got the nominations in, we got the kids together, and we started kind of just meeting up. And we knew some would kind of dwindle away, but we had this core group of young folk who, from that first minute, they were the ones that just absolutely gelled. And what was amazing was they were very, very different. There was, challenges through disability, through kind of neurodiversity, challenges because of things that had happened to them, personally, lack of confidence, some being bullied, having, like health challenges, but they just absolutely, like formed this little group. We were doing, like one, like open sessions with them, teaching them all the stuff that we knew, but they just bonded so well. The sad part was that suddenly we then had COVID and we went from having to meet in physical place where we would just feed them all, in particular, just kept them fed and watered, and got them in, to spend time with each other as well as learning stuff. We suddenly had to then go onto Zoom. So it took us longer than anticipated. It was a challenge to get there in the end, but we actually did manage to produce all their stories, and get their book out. And it's called A New Hope. And that's a tribute to Calum's love of Star Wars, but it was the compilation of the kids' work, all their individual stories, all very different. And thankfully, we did manage to have a launch event with them. By that point, things were just kind of opened up, and we did a session up in Bishopbriggs, got some people there, and we recorded stuff. So it is up on our YouTube, and I'll share links to that for people to go and have a little look if they want to. But the impact of that is I'm still in touch with it. I still hear stuff for the kids every now and again. They're off doing different things, different projects. They're not kids anymore. I mean, they're, definitely very much as adults. But the impact for them, that somebody took an interest in opportunity, but the impact for us as well was huge. And the ripples that created from our business, because when you're able to share, like why something's really important to you, but we were running this through our business, it was, it opened doors for us as well. People wanted to then come and be part of what we were doing, and publish with us because they saw how we were supporting these young people. And just that I suppose that we were trying to pay forward some of the kindness that we'd received, to and make it really tangible for these young folk. And the authors that we had worked with before, so many of them, like came together and donated their time and gave us laptops and all sorts of things, just whatever they could do to help support Calum's legacy. So it's been a really interesting journey. So this is why I think when we come to now in a Big Soul Network, why for me kindness is definitely at the heart of stuff. I really think now that kindness is the language of the soul. That's for me what kindness is. It's the way that we actually have soul to soul communication through acts of kindness. And we can think, because sometimes it's difficult to look at the world now and go, it's all, there's so much chaos and things going on there. But if we can actually think perhaps kind thoughts, even if we don't like the actions that that human person is doing or whatever is going on, but if we think from a soul perspective, and the soul's connection is through love, that kindness, and whether it's sharing a kind thought, a kind deed, or a kind act, can actually just make a difference. And I think that there's so much opportunity for us to do it then through our business, because we people would not necessarily correlate business with kindness. Um, maybe they think of, if you're a charity or you're a social enterprise or you're doing something there, then yeah, those are kind things. But actually in business, it's more about being ruthless, and this is, oh, it's not personal, it's just business. When something really nasty's been, happened and somebody says this, oh, it's nothing personal, it's just business. So there's a lot of stuff that I think that we maybe don't look at in terms of how we conduct our businesses, how we interact with other people, and how that can grow your community, help share your values, and link with other like-minded people. Because for me, Big Soul Network has four foundations. Kindness is first, joy, coming back to my happiness work. Um, Kindness, joy, wisdom is sharing the stuff that we have, right? The wisdom of the big soul soup pot, as Calum will talk about, and the connection that we have, the wisdom of our soul, and the wisdom of our humanness that we've gone through. And then there's wealth. And the wealth is what comes when we have those others in place. That's really my belief and what I'm hoping that we do in Big Soul Network. Hence the fact we're starting really now with a kindness challenge. So, there you are. I've spoken for quite a little while. Thank you very much for listening. Um, so, is there comments, questions, um, what anything that MJ wants to share about your own experiences with kindness, or ask me anything about what I've said? And feel free, you can actually even unmute yourself if you want and speak, because there's only a small group of us, so that would be fine.
Question.
Question. Yes, Ginger.
Yes. Do you remember first or some significant before before this music and all the stuff? It's significant, but small kindness that you still stay in your heart. Small stuff. If it was first or when it happened.
So way back when, first of all, when Callum first died, yeah, I mean, I think the those small acts that really started. I think the one that really stands out is there's a neighbour who we would just kind of walk, and we would say hello to each other in passing, that lived kind of further down from the street. But we weren't friends at that time. It wasn't that we knew each other. And she she stopped her car. She was one that was driving and stopped the car and came out her car and came to see me and gave me a hug. And it was that, just that act of kindness of stopping. No, she didn't just drive past, what she could have done. She could even just have waved or tooted the horn, but she stopped the car and got out and came over and saw me and gave me a hug. And those, it's like, you'll laugh about, the other thing is, I mean, people arriving with toilet roll, because it's those things that, people always going, what you going to do. And our house was full of people. I mean, it was. I mean, we had people turned up all the time. Folk arrived with, there's my friend who arrived with a candle and gave to me with we hear you are, if you're feeling that you're in the dark or you're struggling, light the candle. Um, because that'll be, that's giving you a little bit of light in the darkness. So there's lots of things that came up, but those are like two really simple things that stuck with me. And they're the things then that I, like, will often then do for somebody who's really struggling in those early stages, and particularly in grief, when you know that things are hard.
Yeah. Thank you. And I agree because about the candle you are sharing with in your book.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that this sharing when you are down, light up the candle, helped me when I struggled with a similar situation. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this stuff in your book.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for reading it. Mm. So, anything, anything else? Karen, can I ask you just about what, I mean, the impact for you, I suppose, of winning um the publishing prize? I mean, yeah, okay, so you got your book stuff done. You got a book that you dreamt of before. But does that is there anything around what I've spoke about tonight around the kind of kindness I'm just wondering how, what the impact for you then is on because you're then on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, sorry, I've got the dog in the background. He keeps barking, which is why
That's all right.
I've been
Don't worry.
reluctant to say anything. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I've always been one for paying things forward without really realizing it. It's just like it's like a muscle that I have. It's just
Yeah,
like always try to be kind. Even sometimes you have to try. But
yeah,
yeah, and the book idea, I mean, I think I always expected to be a writer. I just hadn't really done anything about it. And
yeah.
then I think I've shared with you before about the story of how I found out about the competition. It was a mutual acquaintance who'd sent an email that I got, I think on the Sunday evening or the Saturday. It was literally the next day it was closing. And she had a big long email, and usually I didn't read all her messages, but anyway, I went right down to the very, very bottom, and the last thing she'd forwarded was an email from you saying, "Does anybody want to apply to this?" And then the whole story about what had happened with Calum and the whole family and the impact of it. And I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting." And what's really funny is like the book that I wrote was actually, it started off, it was going to be like a self-help book about grief and dealing with my own family losses. And then I did it as a self-help book, and then that just didn't work. So I ended up writing, as I tried to write a self-help book, I ended up writing a novel, which was just funny. But for me, it was about dealing with grief, and it actually starts in a graveyard. So there just seemed to be a lot of like real connections in that. That
Yeah,
my book was about a novel about somebody trying to deal with grief, but in a different way, like connecting with like the supernatural and the idea that our loved ones are not that far away from us, they're in the next room type thing. So the
yeah,
whole book was about that. And I just thought that is just so, so funny. But
yeah.
the way I'd written it, and particularly the way I'd started it, was writing it in the second person, sorry, the third person, I think.
Hmm.
And then I changed it to the first person. I think that's what I'd done.
Hmm.
Can't remember that or the other way. Remember, I think it was that. And yeah, and then just did a wee bit of a cliffhanger ending to try and sort of nab the prize.
You did good.
Um,
So,
but it was very much, it was so funny though. It was just like I tend to write my feelings,
yeah,
and for me it's a really nice way of dealing with things.
yeah,
I make up stories, and I've
yeah,
always done that. But that idea about kindness, yeah, so there was a bit of that coming into it, I suppose, that idea of always feeling that if you can't be anything in this world, be kind. Like a really important sort of wee mantra that's always in
right.
my
I'm going to
head.
just, I need to kind of lift up a little bit because that's,
Oh,
that's what my t-shirt says.
there you go. It's as if we set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that really answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's a funny one actually. It's that thing about being okay to receive,
Yeah.
like how we're okay to receive things when we get them in a particular way.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
somebody had just turned up and said to me, "I'm going to publish your book," I'd have gone, "Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway, but I really don't think so. I'm sure there's more well-deserving people than me." Whereas feeling that it was like a competition,
Hmm.
it was like a very interesting way of receiving
Yeah.
that I don't know if I'd have received that in any other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just when you reflect on what actually was happening there.
Yeah.
Um, and then I took friends with me to Callum's birthday party, and we were all sitting like waiting to find out. It was just quite surreal, like quite a sort of weird um felt it was so weird. It felt almost like the Oscars or something like that. That way it was like, I'm so glad there are no cameras here because you're putting on like the face going, if somebody else's name is called, I'll need to
Got to
go,
go. Oh. Well,
Did you have a
bravo,
speech?
bravo.
Did you have a speech prepared, Karen?
I didn't, Ali, I didn't. I don't think there was going to be I can't remember if there was an opportunity for speeches, but it was just really weird. It was just a really weird
Mm,
experience of waiting to find out if your name was going to be the one called out.
yeah.
And my friend Matty just grabbed me and she just sort of like hugged me, like my full face in her bosom sort of thing. And again, so glad because you don't see that at the Oscars, do you? And she was like kissing me and stuff like that. And I thought, so you know
Mm.
that way when I thought I'm standing up and I have to go and pick this up, I just had visions of myself being all dishevelled, you know, like lipstick across my face and the hair like this, like really, really dishevelled. But I don't know what I look like. So it's a photograph and I do look quite like rabbit in a headlight, I think. But part of it is because I thought, geez, what my genuinely, and she grabbed me this way, another friend grabbed me that way. So it was like really emotional for all my friends too, which is lovely.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like the happiness was shared. We had a lovely dinner and we all got together and we were up dancing. It was like so good. Not
And
like the
here,
Oscars.
yeah, and here we are. The magic of it is that Karen and I are now really good friends, and
I
we
know.
both live in and we live in Largs, and then we didn't. I mean, we had our paths had crossed very briefly, but we didn't know each other.
No, no, I think by
I,
name, and then obviously I'd heard about the Happiness Day, and then
yeah,
you knew a lot of people that I knew,
yeah.
and vice versa. And I think we even went after the same jobs once or twice or something like that. It's
Yeah,
quite
that's right.
quite
Yeah, we did.
funny.
We did kind of like come up with that. It was so amazing. The universe was obviously kind of like putting us there. So as we say, there's obviously been a soul connection, as I think there is with a lot of people that are currently in Big Soul Network. That we've kind of we've might our paths may have crossed. Maybe not even necessarily in this lifetime, but maybe in previous ones. So yeah. So I'm so thank you. Thank you for just
Thank you.
sharing that, and thank you for being here, and yeah, for all the support that you've given me. So, because that means a lot. So,
You're welcome.
thank
Can
you
I
very
just
much.
say one thing though about
Uh-huh.
that thing about receiving,
Yeah.
and also like we never really think that what we're doing is receiving death. We're receiving grief. And that, like I was saying to you about how we receive it or
Mhm.
how it's presented to us really impacts on how we then take it or leave it, you know, that kind of thing. I think it's really funny, strange how death in particular, shocking death can make or break us. You know,
Yeah.
and there can be blessings from it, but you really have to see them. You have to be in the place where you can receive them.
Hmm.
Because I've known so many people over the years who, when somebody close to them has died, have disintegrated. It's been the explosion in the
Yeah.
family or in that person's life.
Yeah.
And I think you really have to honor what you've done with this
Thank you.
because it's really important, I think, that you do.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, I know that I think that I've had to consider that myself for a little while. People have been saying this to me recently because it's almost well, anybody would do this, and you realise that no, it's not what anybody would do or what many people necessarily have done. I do know a few others and a few other mothers who I am also in contact with, and yeah, I think there's a podcast series coming to talk to them because there's a lot of people who have also gone and taken that pain and used it as some kind of fuel to then just create something positive out of it in different ways. So yeah, it's one that's been around for a little while. A little act of kindness is share the stuff that they're doing too, so that we let other people know. So thank you for saying that, Karen. I appreciate it. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. We're almost, at the time up. If I hope that's been interesting for you tonight. I hope that if you're watching on the replay, um, if you've got any questions at all, you can, send me a little message, you can comment in Big Soul Network, and, maybe we can have a little bit of a chat about stuff in there. But maybe you can see this is why kindness, for me, it's a foundation. It's the soul language, and maybe just think about how you could go and sprinkle a little bit more kindness, in your world. And I think by hopefully the end of the challenge, we've got some little obviously activities for everybody to kind of do. The first one will be dropping in the Big Soul Network thread tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I'm not expecting you all to be up and ready to look at it at 8 o'clock, but it'll be there. And I think that the cumulative impact, hopefully, of doing little things over the course of a week, will just kind of generate some extra light in the world, and let's see where the ripples go. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to end the recording,
You,
and we will speak soon.
You
Ali.
take care. No, I